He was in straight up attack mode. That shit was hilarious.
I did hear the boys defend the coordinate system with with gusto. That was awesome.
Yeah.
To hear you guys break it down like that. Dude, all my shit like froze. My Twitter broke. Like all my streams died midway through after restarting twice. My apps broke. I couldn't sign in on my computer. I could only listen on my phone. I was like, what the hell is going on? Twitter freaked out on me. All the way out. Yeah. I couldn't use my mic. I couldn't get in with that. That's why I haven't been speaking. I was just like, I'll just listen today. It's cool. It reminds me of the first couple times we tried to join or whatever.
ABC's hacked them, bro.
Yeah, the coordinate system defense was. Dude, someone was like, Dave's app uses the haver sign. It's spherical. We win. No, the haver sign works on the Gleasons, right? Because the boys were talking about how coordinate systems, the distances are tied to the coordinate systems. Nautical mile specifically ties to the spherical coordinate system, tied to the hemispherical view of the stars. Yep. They were like, what difference does it make? They were trying to get into Cartesian. No. Fundamental plane. That's what mimics the horizon. That's what denotes a spherical coordinate system. The only difference between a hemispherical view and a spherical coordinate system is the negative value for the fundamental plane when it goes below the horizon. That's the only thing. So why is it in Dave's app? Because the haver sign is how you find distances on the graticule, and the graticule is how we know where we are. The graticule was made from the celestial sphere, right? Right ascension and declination is just latitude and longitude, which I think it kept saying. So literally the stars model is a sphere based on your hemispherical view from which they contrive the globe sphere on which we compute distances. So when you're using GPS and satellites to do friend finder stuff to find people on the graticule, of course you would use the haver sign or any sort of mathematical formula that would denote the same distance, which works accurately on such projections as the Gleason if you want to pretend that they're different, because as a Gleason's, as a methyl equidistant direction preserving projection, what it does is straighten out those meridians so that the longitude lines would be exactly identical. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. But you guys did a great job demolishing that with Peter fucking chanting through the whole thing.
I wish the other guy was up here to hear all of that, because that was his thing. I forgot who that guy was, but yeah.
That's why I have an open debate challenge. I'm trying to get people to like voice these things to my face or whatever, because nobody seems to want to. I really want to just have a nice discussion about it. I don't think I have a record of being dishonest in debates or anything, right? I just want to have a discussion.
Can somebody clip that and send it to me, please?
Yeah, right.
I got you.
Whoever clips that and sends it to me, I'm going to send you 3 bottles of my hot sauce if you live in the USA. How's
nice.
That? Nice.
Yo, Shane, they probably want to, and then they like, who is this guy? I'm gonna fucking go. I'm gonna get this guy. And they take one look at your database, and they're like, oh, nah.
Definitely not for the weak of heart, right? Eli, did you especially Google one thing and you think you know some stuff? That's cool. This ain't your fight, bro. You know. I do want to have a discussion now. I like how the position became immediately my position. I was like, guys, it's not the globe that's being projected. It's this coordinate system. They were like, duh, that's what we've always been saying. What? No, we do. We know when we're being gaslit. What are you kidding me? Like after COVID, you're gonna gaslight me to my face. This was your position, right? And now it's my position. Okay, cool. That was the funniest transition, because now they're all doing it. But whatever. Latitude and longitude. Fuck this.
I don't know, bro. Looks physical to me, man.
Yo, D3, you gonna have to drive down a.
I've had a lot of caffeine. Let's get ready. And I heard his hands like rubbing together vigorously or whatever.
Yo, he was in straight up attack mode. That shit was hilarious.
I did hear the boys defend the coordinate system with gusto. That was awesome.
Yeah.
To hear you guys break it down like that. Dude, all my shit like froze. My Twitter broke. Like all my streams died midway through after restarting twice. My apps broke. I couldn't sign into Twitter on my computer. I could only listen on my phone. It was like, what the hell is going on? Twitter freaked out on me.
All the way out.
Yeah, all the way out. Yeah. I couldn't use my mic. I couldn't get in with that. That's why I haven't been speaking. I was just like, I'll just listen today. It's cool. It reminds me of the first couple times we tried to join or whatever.
ABC's hacked them, bro.
Yeah, the coordinate system defense was. Dude, someone was like, Dave's app uses the haver sign. It's spherical. We win. No, the haver sign works on the Gleasons, right? Because the boys were talking about how coordinate systems, the distances are tied to the coordinate systems. Nautical mile specifically ties to the spherical coordinate system, tied to the hemispherical view of the stars. Yep. They were like, what difference does it make? They were trying to get into Cartesian. No. Fundamental plane. That's what mimics the horizon. That's what denotes a spherical coordinate system. The only difference between a hemispherical view and a spherical coordinate system is the negative value for the fundamental plane when it goes below the horizon. That's the only thing. So why is it in Dave's app? Because the haver sign is how you find distances on the graticule, and the graticule is how we know where we are. The graticule was made from the celestial sphere, right? Right ascension and declination is just latitude and longitude, which it kept saying. So literally the stars model is a sphere based on your hemispherical view from which they contrive the globe sphere on which we compute distances. So when you're using GPS and satellites to do friend finder stuff to find people on the graticule, of course you would use the haver sign or any sort of mathematical formula that would denote the same distance, which works accurately on such projections as the Gleasons if you want to pretend that they're different, because as a Gleasons, as a methyl equidistant direction preserving projection, what it does is straighten out those meridians so that the longitude lines would be exactly identical anyway. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. But you guys did a great job demolishing that with Peter fucking chanting through the whole thing.
Yeah, I wish the other guy was up here to hear all of that, because that was his thing. I forgot who that guy was, but yeah.
That's why I have an open debate challenge. I'm trying to get people to like voice these things to my face or whatever, because nobody seems to want to. I really want to just have a nice discussion about it. I don't think I have a record of being dishonest in debates or anything, right? I just want to have a discussion.
Can somebody
probably
clip
get-
that and send it to me, please?
Yeah, right?
I got you, Dave.
Whoever clips that and sends it to me, I'm going to send you 3 bottles of my hot sauce if you live in the USA. How's that?
Nice. Yo, Shane, they probably want to, and then they like, who is this guy? I'm gonna fucking go. I'm gonna get this guy, and they take one look at your database, and they're like, nah.
Definitely not for the weak of heart, right? Did you just personally Google one thing and you think you know some stuff? That's cool. This ain't your fight, bro. You know. I do want to have the discussion now. I like how the position became immediately my position. I was like, guys, it's not the globe that's being projected. It's this coordinate system. And they were like, duh, that's what we've always been saying. What? No, we know when we're being gaslit. What are you kidding me? Like after COVID, you're gonna gaslight me to my face? This was your position, right? And now it's my position. Okay, cool. That was the funniest transition, because now they're all doing it. But whatever.
Or what up, Bowser?
Yeah, I wanted to come up here because I saw Shane, and I was hoping Taylor was going to be here too, because I have a question about the perceived drop or not. And I know, Shane and Ellen, you guys talk a lot about how we perceive, we perceive in a sphere, and so we take our perception and just make that into our land, and that's the trick. And I was wondering, wouldn't the theodolites, and I remember a few weeks ago you guys were arguing with a Glover about like the aperture rate versus something that was this ratio that you kept the same and you can get the same effect, and he kept assuming that you could just change one and that would be the scientific thing to do, when you guys are really talking about no, we're keeping the ratio the same. That's to control. And but I guess my question is, wouldn't we expect, based on all that, if you understand what I'm saying, wouldn't we expect the theodolite to show, like, if we have a certain like a certain height of something, it to drop kind of close to the rate that they would predict as the globe, just based on our perception? I guess.
Yeah, dude. So there was a dude objecting about the Rayleigh's criterion when you're trying to use, specific wavelength and a regular human eye aperture at the horizon to mimic real conditions. But what that whole example is meant to show, and this kind of gets lost in there when people start fighting about nonsense, is that there's a kinematic equivalence. There's a literal equivalent mathematically and observationally to the distance to a horizon. If you're standing from a 6-foot observer on a globe using trigonometric functions and a ball of radius 3959, to literally standing on a flat plane with an angular resolution limit of like the same amount, meaning that the distance to the horizon comes out the same. That's why the radius comes out exactly the same. So you can't say with certainty, based on our observation with the predicted drop rate, whether the dynamic cause of that drop is said physical Earth curve or the actual optical descent rate contrived from the same equivalent. So that's why the spreadsheet with math showing, hey, if you use Rayleigh's criterion to mimic the human eye at the horizon, then look, you get the same calculation to the distance to the horizon. What's interesting is that it uses the same constant, 1.22, comes out when you do the Pythagorean theorem to get, the distance to the horizon based on a 6-foot observer on a ball. You end up using, ends up being, the 1.22 times the square root of the observer height in feet. Everyone knows that. And then the same constant has to get used in Rayleigh's criterion, and it's 1.22 times theta. I think it's times the wavelength of the diameter, which is you pick the wavelength of the most refracted resistant light, red orange, and you do for the pupil diameter 1.2, I think, and then tangent of the theta of that gives you the actual same distance to the horizon when you start doing the math. And that's the whole point of that observation. And they hate that. And so what they try to do is they're like, well, if I just change the aperture length and keep everything else the same, it breaks the math. And it's like, yeah, but that's stupid. Like, that's a stupid thing to do when you're trying to compare scientifically of kinematic equivalents based on these observations. You're like, yeah, okay, but what if light was orange? Like, what if it was blue? What if it was green? It's just like, okay, well, we're trying to mimic real life situations to give the globe the best, like the best Steelman we can. Like, so if they're gonna argue refraction, red orange is the heavy resistance. So we're gonna try and give you the benefit of the doubt. And they're like, no, let's just change it. And it's like, and it doesn't matter. The whole ratio doesn't, like, it comes out the same. It's the same angular resolution limit, and the same ratio gets mimicked in optics all the way through telescopes to cameras to, you know, it's all the same. So anyway, when they say, you know, should you expect to see a drop? Yes, right. You're perceiving a linear world spherically anyway, so we're approximating it orthographically with lines anyway. And when we're doing that, we're doing it with linear perspective, right? Because we know that railroads don't actually converge, but they appear to. So yeah, I would say that you would expect to see exactly what we see on a flat plane, and that mathematically you can derive the same equivalence from the expectation of the linear drop rate. That's why the equivalence for the parabolic rate of like 8 inches per mile squared can be approximated linearly up to 100 miles or whatever.
Yeah, so how does that relate? So yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the theodolites with Jesse, and then he had these readings which appeared to match what the globe would be. And then, like, the biggest criticism was, well, did you do enough repeats? And I guess my question was, even if we prove those right, we still just assume that it's just optical effect and not necessarily an indication of the shape of the Earth. I guess that's my question.
So the when I said kinematic equivalence, it means empirically it can go either way. You can't tell observationally what the dynamic cause of that drop is, so it makes no fucking difference. That's the whole point. Right. If you it makes the same prediction. So now what? Like, you gotta bring it back to the dynamic cause of, is it optics? Well, the other supporting circumstantial evidence mathematically say that it is, and the equivalent would be evidence of physical Earth curve to be that mechanism of the dynamic cause of that drop, and that's never been substantiated in any way. So,
absolutely. Okay, that was my question. Thanks for answering.
Yo, we got my bad. We got meth in here. But I see it's astronomy live in my comments. Yo, bro, come grab this mic. Come on, Ferg. Get out my mentions. It's too early to be in my mentions, bro.
Why they in the mentions and not in here?
Exactly. You tweeted at me for Fergie.
I was gonna say, did you guys ever finish listening to Aries Failure? Or
oh, I completely forgot.
Some Glober came in and asked a dumb question about maps, and it threw everyone off, and you entertained it for like 6 hours, and now we're here.
We could finish it while we wait for Whistle to come back, because I think Lynn had a question for him. But and since Fergie, since I know you listening, we should hear the rest of your logical analysis.
The sentient water defense is one of my new favorites. I'm gonna start using it when I steal man the globe position on why it's retarded. Like, this is the best you guys can do. So, you should probably just be on our side. Unless you want to argue sentient water,
Right.
I'm just wondering if Gary from the UK is listening. His discussions always are pretty funny.
Is that the drunk sloppy guy that comes up and asks retarded questions, or is that a different Gary?
I don't think so. He'll go on for like an hour and a half. I totally forget what topic it was on, but maybe it was Battle of Beans.
Ooh. I love that. I love that there's these topics that have surfaced that people have no answer for, and that we don't let them just fall by the wayside. We keep bringing them up. Like the dude that brings up radio horizons prove the globe, and it's like funny, and then it's like, boom, hey, have you seen Battle of the Beans? As you whip it up, put it on the table. Like, yeah, that's a dumb point, because this isn't going to go your way. Now, I think that there's a lot of those arguments that really solidify our position, and I think it's funny that I think it's funny that they all come up with different sounding lies to explain it. Like the sentient water explanation is an example of a glober trying their hardest within their paradigm and their allowed dogma to find an explanation that makes sense. And that's the only time they're allowed any sort of individual sense of critical thinking. So you got to applaud them for coming up with sentient water,
I just wanted to, when you guys started bringing up radio waves, my dad was worked for the Mars all the way up until he passed away. He'd have a net, usually once or twice a week, and he had 2 meter all the way up to 160 meter antenna. And that 160 meter is the one that when they had like a special contest called World Contact Day, and you would note the time. I've seen somebody post stuff on here before about long distance radio waves. Anyway, that's when my dad would crank out the 160 wave meter antenna, and because he would the FCC would give them permission to interfere with people's television sets on this day. They would just they give him a pass, and he got ones from freaking Queensland, freaking Australia, in West Virginia. His K8 was his first one, so how early that number goes back. But yeah, the radio waves, my dad, is bouncing, but I'm coming to think that maybe with that 160 meter, he was reaching Queensland.
Maybe, but then they just start invoking ionosphere and this crazy sort of, they can just start drawing in paint, right? And then they can just explain anything they want and bouncing and refracting all over the place. That's why Battle of the Beams is particularly nice, because it rules out all of that nonsense, because it's a line of sight laser weapon that had to maintain the two beams and maintain the equisignal to the points where they knew where they were. And they had to cross-egg with another beam, which had an equisignal as well, which when overlaid give them the signal to drop. So the precise amount of line of sight over that distance is what gives it the strength. The regular radio waves, they can just claim that because they're invisible, they can just be like, yeah, well, what happened was in paint, it bounced it off the ionosphere, it came back, circled back around, got refracted, then recombined, and now it's here. And that's why we have it 3,000 miles away. But with this, they can't do any of that. So I think that's why it's a really strong argument, because it had to be line of sight. So it's really like the world's biggest laser test, and it resulted in bombs that have verifiable evidence. So it's a really good argument. And as we know, no one has any answer to it. That's why it's fun to ask people their own specific globular variation that they want to come up with. So people will have their own answer for Aries failure. They have their own answer for Battle of the Beams to be a glober now.
And they won't address either.
And when somebody posted, I was watching those long distance radio contacts, and there's not a category for the 160 meter, how far that's supposed to go. It's all, I think, like the longest one is 80 meters is the most frequent one they use in those long distance contacts. And you never see the ones for 160 meter. Maybe that was a test for the Mars to see how far, they can go. Because I can't find any information on 160 meter, long distance contacts.
Dude, who were those other Glovers that came up and talked about maps? So there was that one dude, like Peter just bleated on, but before that, there was people who were trying to make arguments. There was that one dude talking about distances, and I couldn't tell if he was really a flat earther or not. I think he's the one who started it, the one who interrupted to start the whole thing. He sounded like a Glover, but he was like something about the distances don't match because when I do my calculation for distance over time, it equates to this, and it's slightly not less than 2.5 times the thing. And my first response was, what the fuck? What the hell's he talking about?
I think you're talking about Roundhound. That's our TikTok lad.
Is that who that was? I couldn't tell because I couldn't see during this time, so all I could hear was I was just listening. So I don't know who this was at all, and I'm trying.
He claimed to be a captain of a ship for like 5
Yeah, that guy.
years.
Yeah, him. Who the hell was that guy?
Oh no, he was a flat earther. I don't.
For sure though.
That's what he said he was.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I know he said that, but like, did you guys get the feeling that he was a flat earther?
I mean, it was critical thinking. I don't think he was truly understanding what I was saying, but it could have been vice versa. Maybe I didn't really understand what he was saying, but I thought I was being clear.
Yeah, just from the context of he acted like a Glober and interrupted a lot of people when they started getting like refuted, which I thought was very Globerish. That's all I was thinking. I was like, we don't usually do that to each other.
That's true.
But yeah, no, that was a weird. I didn't understand his argument. I feel like I needed a diagram because I was thinking about his argument for distances, and I'm like, I don't understand your position at all. And then you were trying to understand it, I think, and we're trying to like get with it, and then he just kept repeating distances don't match, and he came up with the factor of 2.5, and I couldn't figure it out. But it seemed like a misunderstanding of the Gleason's map as a projection of the same coordinate system that just shows the same distance derived from your hemispherical view of the stars.
Right. It's like you're referencing another coordinate system and it's projecting, bro.
Yeah, I heard you say that, the coordinate system, and they were like, nah, it's got nothing to do with the coordinate system. I was like, oh, but it does. Oh, but it absolutely does. Literally, latitude and longitude is derived from right ascension declination. It might as well be synonymous. The differentiation is meaningless because there's one-for-one correlation through astrogeodetics anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, no, it's everything. So it's a different position.
Literally everything. That's the main thing. Yeah. Hopefully he'll rewatch this back and reconsider.
Yeah, I highly doubt that. Because they get people like Piper Australis, right, who I've said all this to 1,000 times, who I literally respond to with tweets all the times. And to them, to their world, all they want to do is just say those things to us with us and then be like, haha, look, they have no argument. If we have an argument and refute it, they don't know what to do. They kind of freeze up. They just go away, and then they'll come back and repeat the same thing. As with Piper, like, how many times he said, no flat earther has ever answered X, and we've all given them specific, well-articulated, well-researched answers with pictures, like personal links, research. And it's just like the next day, no flat earther has ever answered, and you're like, oh, man. Oh, you're like, are you retarded? Or are you purposely, like, deceitful? I'm not sure. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that guy won't come back and listen to it and be like, oh, I realized the error of my ways.
Hippie's purposely deceitful. He's been caught multiple times lying and being dishonest on the timeline. Even offered to delete his account if we point out his lies, and he just won't do it.
Who's that? What's his name?
Hippie?
Pippio. Okay, all right.
Yeah, speaking of the trolls, including you, Astronomy Live, because I know you listening. When we live, pull up, man. Public service announcement.
I'm not about that life. So you want us to talk about it? I am more than happy to talk about it. But I want you to stand behind this work if you genuinely do stand behind it. If you don't stand behind it, then by all means remain as listener. But I'm not going to be addressing anything that you're posting unless you actually come on the mic and tell us about it. Actually have the conversation, because
you had conversation.
Yeah, we're not doing this, proxy. I'm going to stay in the background bullshit, but I'm still going to be throwing a whole bunch of shit at the wall, hoping something sticks. Yeah, not happening.
Not around here, partner. Not around here.
That's so funny in context.
I ain't say it.
I've never heard any of that. That's hilarious. You have that.
That applies to the globe gangsters, the flat earth rejects. All of y'all.
All of y'all.
The flat earth rejects. I like that's a group you have to address now. Like the people who just wanted to be different but didn't get the social reinforcement they really required from the people who didn't respect them. So now they have their own little clique of different where they can still be along with the mainstream but be just enough different or whatever. Those people, I guess your way is quicker.
That reminds me of the person who says that it has to be a globe because Australia exists. I think you know who I'm talking about, Shane.
That's almost as bad as the people who charged triumphantly into the conversation that Australia is the wrong size on your map, Flurf. Therefore, we win, idiot.
Oh, I have an accurate representation, 2-scale representation of Australia, if you guys want to see it.
I'm sorry. You guys brought up something. And what about that map on Air Force One that has another landmass, out there near Antarctica, but in different position? Have you seen that on the plane? I think JFK's plane or Lyndon Johnson's plane.
Well, I don't think I've seen that.
No, but I know that.
We can go to Steve Doug after this, but you can finish your thought.
No, I ended there. I was just wondered if what do you guys think of that? That's part of Antarctica, or they're keeping more land away from us?
Good question. What y'all think?
I've seen the image where JFK standing in Air Force One, got that big ass projection on his wall. I never noticed there was an extra piece of land though.
There's also there's two. Yeah, there's that one, and then there's one where someone took a picture in a different angle, and it's there. I guess I'll have to try and find it. My bad.
Yo, Galatrax, you posted. Oh,
So,
my bad.
I was going to mention, did y'all hear that? I met a Glover yesterday that is refuting the Canterbury Mountains. He says it's got to be one of the other ones that's more visible. Can't be Canterbury.
It's a solid position.
I was in and out on that one. I would leave if you guys were stuck. I was sick of hearing of that one, man. God dog, that was terrible.
He named 3 other mountain peaks that could be visible from that area, but he failed to look to see what azimuth that observation was looking at, where the sun was setting on that day, those kind of things. So he just wanted to refute it and sow doubt, like, oh, maybe it's not that. Maybe they just had it wrong all these years, all these decades.
Well, that's an argument. Like, it isn't because it simply can't be, man. It can't be. Earth globe.